Recall your earliest childhood memory. How old are you in this memory? 4, 5? Developmental neuroscience tells us that we are not from an episodic memories before the age of 3. Supposedly memories from before this time are merely phantoms errors in the brain's memory formation process, ordinary daydreams, mislabeled as the fact. This is what the current research tells us. It is important you know this. Bear with me, reader. I will not waste your time with endless foreplay. Here's my story. I am a graduate student studying linguistics, and my work often overlaps with that of neuroscience department. I have made many contacts on here. On one such contact is subject of the story. We will call him DV. DV also graduated student. He studies memory and he's procedure to call transcendental magnetic stimulation. This procedure uses magnetic radiation to activate the targeted proportions of the brain. Imagine a magic wand you put on a cluster of the neurons and say dance, and they dance. 2 months ago, DV asked me to assist on a pet project he was developing. He insisted me in the past when I was learning to use EEG for my research. I owed him a really great deal. I had no choice but to help him in his work. DV is what I have instead of friends. I arrived at his lab after hours as requested. He was waiting by the door. He was wearing his lab coat. It was far too big for his frame, swallowed his shoulders, and he looked so childlike. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Ready for what?" I asked. He had not told me any details about this project. "I just need practicing focus on the machine," he said. "I am a target of an area of the brain that no one has targeted with this device since before." I consisted it with the little hesitation. He had happily served as my model subject when I was learning the EEG academia, but I built open upon exchange favors. Besides, his machine doesn't even break the skin. I made myself comfortable in his examination chair. It had been 11 wrist straints, but they were never used. I was facing a bay window. The lab was high on the campus hill. The night loomed heavy over the orange city lights. A few cars floated along the highway. "Just try and relax," DV said. His breath was minty, with undercurrents of gin. He turned on the magic wand, and I felt the familiar buzz of electricity burn on my scalp. The vibrations coverage on the points just behind my ears. On both sides of my head, the points began to burn. My hair stood on the end. "How do you feel?" DV asked. He was whispering, but his voice was thick with anticipation. I think he already knew the answer to this question. Before I could respond, I heard a cry from down the hall. Someone was screaming in the stairwell. Someone was howling like an animal shot through the leg. I heard flesh crackling, and I heard tendons popping. I heard a voice choking on words. Someone was vomiting up my name on the stairwell. "I think I need to take a break," I said. I tried to turn and look at DV, but he was holding my head in place with his hands. I tried to move my hands, but I found the wrist straps had been fastened. "How long have you been here?" I asked. No one responded. The moaning down the hall grew closer. Someone was pounding on the doors. They were locked, but the door to the lab wasn't. "Please turn it off," I said. The current from the machine felt lightning coursing through my blind eyes. The window grew larger and the doors on the road skidded out of control. I watched the headlights plunge into the river. I watched the headlights carrying into each other. The city lights blinked out one by one. The darkness of the landscape was all so thick. I could wait it too, so I did. I was out there in the void. There was more distance between me and then the earth's horizon provides. I was alone for a precious instant. Then the darkness was broken by a man. He was the same man from the hall. He was a man without skin, muscles, and sinew with all twitching. Veins and arteries were all spurring. I could feel his heart shrivel in his chest when he looked at me. He was all slaughterhouse. No humanity. He was so close. I could smell the rotten meat on his silver bones. "Do you remember me?" he said. His teeth were gripped out like a racehorse. His frame was blurry, as if dislodged in time. His mouth looked like a slow exposure photo of a burning carcass. "Yes," I said, because I did. When I was young, too young for formed memories, I had a dream. In this dream, a man walked behind me and told me things about the universe that I didn't want to know. He was a man without skin. He was the man standing before me in the void. He followed me through the movie theaters, through the city parks, through the howling tunnels and unkept forests and childhood homes, only to find me huddled in the corner of my bedroom closet. He spoke with a few words. "I don't have words for the whole things," he says. I woke up soon after, drenched in freezing sweat, lips burnt with vomit, eyes sore from rolling in their sockets. My mind tried to reject the memory. I have searched every language for the words I have heard that night, but no tongue from this man has ever spoken the things I heard. There in the void, there in the lab, the man had found me again. The machine fractured my defenses and let him in. For the second time he spoke those words, and for the second time my mind refused to keep them. At some point, what seemed like an eternity later, DV removed the device from my head. As suddenly was walking and waking from a dream, I came across my senses. "How long was I hooked up for?" I asked. "Less than a minute," DV responded. He had lost his tone of knowing. His voice was quiet and trembled as he spoke. "Untie me," he said. I said. I then realized my wrists were not bound. DV was frozen in the corner. I stood up and gathered my belongings. My ears were ringing, each with a different pitch. They were distant. They were last notes of Strong I had heard in 20 years. "I'm not coming back," I said. "Please don't contact me." DV nodded. His skin was white as his lab coat. I walked 5 miles away from home. I didn't trust myself behind the wheels of the car. The night was silent as I walked. Even the crickets were quiet for me. When I got home, I vomited into my bathroom sink. I watched my breakfast, lunch, and dinner circle in sputtering drain. I looked in the mirror. My shirt was drenched in blood, all except for a pattern of ribs across the front. The blood was still wet to the touch. My pockets were full of cartilage. My socks were soaked in afterbirth. I threw my clothes in the trash compactor that night. DR and I didn't speak. I did not see him on campus. I completed my schoolwork regularly. I paid my rent on time. I fall asleep to talk shows on weeknights and to whiskey on weekends. I don't do much dreaming. Nowadays, I especially don't want to think about my childhood. Somewhere in the unformed recesses of an accessible memory, there are words that shouldn't be heard. A man without skin chose to tell me words, and I chose twice now not to remember them. At the beginning of this text, I ask you to recall your first memory. I hope it was from when you were 4 or 5. I hope it was simply a memory of your first injury or something similar. I hope these things because somewhere else in your brain there is a memory of something developed brain chose not to remember. I hope these things because the infinite horror of those forgotten words is too great for the human mind to comprehend. I hope your dreams are blissful and your nightmares leave you happy to be awake. Most of all, I hope that story keeps you from exploring those damn boundaries vaults of your mind. When you were born, we have no defenses against the world, physical or mental. Perhaps it takes a few years to build these defenses. Perhaps these things were seen before they even got better left forgotten. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video. And I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, Thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.